This is the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast with your host, Greg Jamison. Influencer marketing is the process of identifying, researching, engaging, and supporting the people who create high-impact conversations with your customers. On each episode, I talk with industry leaders, business rock stars, and internet celebrities who contribute their knowledge about influencing others and growing your influence. Welcome to the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast. I'm your host, Greg Jamison, and I've got a special guest with me today. His name is Tom Antion, and Tom and I actually met a number of years ago at an event that was being held at a hotel. But the big thing is that when we were looking at sharing podcasts here, it occurred to me that Tom and I actually have a very similar background in that we both work from home, have worked from home. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the current situation where everybody's been forced to work at home. And so I wanted to bring Tom on and talk to our listeners about working at home during this time of a pandemic and what people can do about it. So basically, welcome, Tom. Appreciate you
how you
being on the
doing,
show
Greg?
here. And
glad we crossed paths again after it only took 10 years.
Tell people more about yourself.
Oh, well, my podcast that you're going to be on is called Screw the Commute, because basically I've never had a job. I've been in my own business formally for 43 years. And even since I was 10 years old doing, kids side hustles. And so I'm very used to this, and so are you. But, this is a big culture shock for a lot of people to be from one time they're gossiping around the waterfront until now they're looking around and there's nobody, nobody there. Yeah, so it is a big culture shock for people, but I've lived this my whole life. In fact, I owned a nightclub for 6 years and I lived above it. So technically I still worked out of my home. So yeah, it's been ever since, it's been just the most rewarding thing not to have the dreaded J-O-B and the boss. You know what boss spells backwards? Double S-O-B.
Exactly.
So yeah, you don't have to have that when you're doing the stuff we do.
Well, and I know that you have helped a ton of people with their online marketing, which is really one of the big things that I think that we'll talk about here today as well. But it's interesting when we sit here and we talk about our past. I have mostly worked from home during my entire career. Mm-hmm. There has been a period because it was my company and I had like 25 employees at one time where I actually did have an office, and it was not a whole lot of fun even being the boss to go in and have to babysit the employees. It's a whole lot more intriguing to me to work at home. And now, like you said, there's lots of people out there that are kind of being forced into that. I know that my kids, for example, that have jobs, one of them in particular, he lives in New York, and he would normally go into an office or he would be going into his clients' offices. And being in New York now, obviously, you're working at home.
Right.
And that's something that definitely takes some getting used to, but it's also something that as people have started to lose their jobs, so many people are asking, what am I going to do here? How am I going to start paying the bills? So what kind of suggestions do you have for people?
Well, the online world that you and I have been living in, if you get the knowledge, can be extremely rewarding, number one. But in the digital world that we live in, the products that you can create, ebooks and online courses and all the kinds of things that you can create are 97% gross profit. No other business is like that. I mean, many businesses are lucky if they can pull 5% to the bottom line. And so they have to be virtually perfect just to get by. where I've made every mistake, and I'm sure you've made plenty of them, but still we made out because we have this big profit margin to work with. So you don't have to be perfect to do this. You don't have to be afraid of it. What you have to be afraid of is that there are people that will take advantage of you online. And so the more knowledge you can get, the more chance you have of success. But you know, people have knowledge. Either one of you or I could sit down anybody and probably pull out an ebook out of their brain on something. If they've been in any kind of line of work for a while, we could probably have them a product idea, and a week later have them a digital product that can be for sale. So not even, and sometimes not even without a website. They could put a YouTube video up and get that to stimulate the sale of the ebook, and you can have it hosted on Amazon. You know, so you don't even have to have a website. So there's loads of ways without even a website you can make money. So the more they can learn about this field, it really opens up a lot of possibilities for them. And it's right from the computer, and it's a beautiful lifestyle business. I mean, you get to set your own schedule. You know how that is. You do what you want, when you want. You don't have, you're not anybody under anybody's thumb, but you do have to be somewhat disciplined, because it's pretty easy to click that remote control and watch Netflix all day too. So you do have to have some discipline if you're going to be in this line of work, but it's out there and waiting for you.
You know, I had an attorney one time that told me that being an entrepreneur was great because you only had to work half time, and it didn't matter which 12 hours of the day
Right.
you picked.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The one I always say is you work 80 hours a week to get out of work and 40 hours a week for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. So there is that aspect of it, I think. And I know it's something that I actually struggle with myself, is that because you're working at home, people think that, oh, you're going to get distracted. You're going to watch Netflix. You're going to go out and do the yard work and whatnot. And maybe you will. I think it depends upon your personality. But if you are the workaholic personality like me, the problem is that work is always there.
Yeah.
And it's like right in the next room, you know, so you just like, oh yeah, I've got this great idea. I'm just going to go to the computer and just write it down. And you come out 3 hours later with it was going to be just, oh, I'm just going to do this one thing.
Right. Well, you know, you do have to be disciplined about it, but again, you get to set your own discipline. If you want to work 4 hours a day, great. If you want to cut the yard and do the home maintenance, if you want to spend family time, you get to set it, but you do need to set it, because if you don't, like you just said, rabbit holes and shiny objects will appear every second online, and you got to learn how to stay focused a little bit. But still, it's the most rewarding thing ever in my entire life. I mean, I was in lots of businesses before the internet came along. And then in 1994, when the commercial internet came along, I said, you mean I can sell my stuff around the world sitting at my desk? I said, I'm going to figure this out, you know, so, yeah. But it, you know, still, it took me 2 years trying to figure it out on my own. And that's as soon as I got good training. You may remember Corey Rudel, which he was like the 30-year-old grandfather of internet marketing, making about $5 million a year from his apartment. He was my first teacher in 1996, after me struggling and trying this Wild West from 94 to 96, trying to figure things out. As soon as I got good training from him, I started making money. $50 a week, $100 a week, 500, 1,000. Now it's not uncommon for $30,000 weeks. And I hit 4 years later, after I got good training, I hit multimillionaire status around the year 2000, and I've enjoyed it ever since. So the sky's the limit. There's no glass ceiling in this field. If you take the time to get the knowledge and you're disciplined enough to implement it along with the rest of your life while you are at home.
Yeah. Now let's talk about people that, you know, you and I both enjoy working at home. Let's talk about people that maybe their personality is such that they really want to be around people, and their job maybe even entails that they be around people. And then this pandemic hit, and now they are kind of forced to, I mean, some of them have simply lost their jobs. Other ones are being forced to work at home when whatever their business is maybe works better because they're on teams and they're interacting with people, or they have to interact with their customers. What do you recommend for those kinds of people?
Well, the one thing that I've been teaching for years and years is to recruit some young people to either intern with you or apprentice with you. Now, of course, they'd have to be remote now, but still, so what? Say if you're doing stuff online. So you have somebody that's interacting with you where you feel like I'm helping this young person, but the young person is going to help you just as much. And in 1997, Greg, I recruited the first young person to work with me out of Comp USA. I don't think it's around anymore. And he would he would sit behind me watching me work on my computer. And he was a little smart aleck Russian kid. And he was like, I can't believe somebody's making so much money. Just click here. You know, how could you be so stupid? Click here. And I always shut up because he was always right. And so he really, really increased my skills, this young person. And in return, wait till you hear what happened to him. His name is Ilya Pozin, P-O-Z-I-N. I grabbed him out of Comp USA. He worked for me. He was just going to be a corporate regular worker like his dad, but I got him to be an entrepreneur. He just sold his third startup in Los Angeles, a company called Pluto.tv. You may have heard of it. It's one of these like Hulu kind of things. It's you can watch stuff on it for free. $340 million he made. He sold it to Viacom. It's all, you can read it all on the internet, but I started him out and he attributes that to me. So I want people to get these young people around them, and then they'll have a reason. Oh, I got to get up and I got to talk to Joe this morning and Sally this morning on Zoom. And so we can really keep working here. And these kids figure stuff out. So they came out of the womb swiping a tablet just about, so they can really accelerate your success and give you a reason that, you're not just sitting there alone now. You've got other people dependent on you that need you, and they're going to help you. So that would be one thing I'd highly recommend. And some of them are dirt cheap. Some of them are free. As part of apprentice programs from their schools. And so that's what I have suggested to people for many years, and it's helped them out tremendously. So they don't, and then when things open up, the kids can come to your house and work with you, or they can still work remotely. So the one tip I have is don't pay them by the hour. Okay, because they'll be playing on TikTok for 68 minutes out of every hour, which is more than an hour, and you'll be paying them. So pay them by the job. So if they put up 8 web pages to my satisfaction, then they get paid whatever it was, a couple dollars a page or whatever it was. So don't pay them by the hour, though. You'll really not work out too well.
Yeah, I think the other thing that so many people need to really understand is that you kind of have to think outside the box of what you've been doing. Just as an example, maybe you are a plumber. Well, a plumber, you feel like I've got to go to this person's house and fix their leak or whatever it is that you're doing. Or an auto mechanic, somebody has to bring me their car. That's not a job you can do from your house. But if you really think outside the box and look at some of the other technologies that are out there, you could say, what could I do remotely? Could I have somebody take a camera and show me the leak on their pipe? Could they take a camera and show me what's going on with their car? And maybe I can do remote diagnostics. Maybe I can't.
They're even doing dog training on Skype and Zoom nowadays. All right. So you're absolutely right. There's things that you can do that you never thought of.
Yeah. When this whole pandemic thing started, I was like, if the doctors can do virtual medicine, there's probably not any profession out there that cannot somehow do some aspect of their job remotely. So you may still have to interact with people and do things where you have a physical presence, but there are definitely things that you can do virtually. And if you think about it and figure out what those things are, it could end up actually being a bigger part of your business than the actual fixing of the problem.
Well, when I teach people, especially if a local business comes to me, they say, well, we're just a local, we're a landscape company. I tell them, you got to stop thinking locally. You are a global business that has knowledge about landscaping. And so I get them to create digital products, videos and ebooks and things like that. And when you stop and think about it, let's say it's a landscaper, plumber, whatever suits you. They can only do so many jobs. I mean, it's finite unless they hire a whole bunch of crews and all that stuff, all right? But if they created an information product, not only could that sell in their local market, it could sell anywhere where people speak English, and they could have it translated to Spanish if they wanted to. And really, just like you said, they would make more money in the long run selling their knowledge than actually doing the work anymore. I'm not telling them to quit the work that they might really enjoy, but they'll get a bigger revenue stream eventually when they're selling to anybody on earth rather than just somebody in their local service area. So that's what I teach.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take a quick break here. And on the other side of the break, let's expand upon that a little bit of people need to be selling their knowledge, but then we're going to get into the question of how do they actually do that? Because now they're stuck at home and they've never done this before. We need to figure out how they're going to do it. So we'll be right back after this. Hi, I'm Greg Jamison, the host of the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast. Every week, I not only have the opportunity, but the real privilege of interviewing experts in their field, true thought leaders, and I get to share this information with you. The purpose of this is really to help you sell more of your products and services online, which is the core premise of my primary business, Web Stores Limited. At Web Stores, we go out and we create e-commerce websites for small businesses. Plus, we do internet marketing and digital advertising for those businesses to really help them sell more online. We have a whole number of resources and tools designed to help make this process easier for businesses, probably much like yours. I've been the author of several #1 best-selling books, including Amazon's Dirty Little Secrets and The Influencer Effect, plus a whole series of online courses if you want to learn how to do this stuff yourself. The best way to remain in contact with me, besides subscribing to this podcast, of course, is to simply go to gregjamison.com/free gift, where I have a special offer for you simply because you are a valued listener to this podcast. Thanks again, and now let's get back to today's episode. Welcome back to the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast. With me today is Tom Antion, and right before the break, we were talking about how people need to be able to sell their knowledge online. But the problem is that I think a lot of our listeners, Tom, don't really know how to do this. So what would be your recommendations on how they actually get started selling their knowledge?
Well, the first thing I start everybody out on is creating a PDF ebook. And before I hear anybody out there whining, say, oh, I can't write a book, I can't write a book. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And there's plenty of people that'll help you. It's more important that you get your ideas all collected, and you can research your ideas, and you can get the ones that are in your head and just start collecting them. And one thing I do is I keep my recording app. So if I think of something that should go into my book, I just make a quick note of it. I don't dictate it like a lawyer would. All right, I just remind me, so tell them about the story of so-and-so. And then I collect all those and just put them in a Word document. And then when you collect all those, if you are a good writer, then you start writing them up. But if you don't feel like you are, you can't spell, or your grammar's not good, there are loads of people around that will help you. one of the places you can recruit from is called Upwork. It's a freelance place. It used to be called Elance for freelancers online. And there's people that'll do this. Even my video guy's mother's a retired English teacher, does work on the side. You know, so I know a guy that's got 14 bestsellers, and he can barely do an introduction for me on stage. You can't read it, you know, but his ideas were put together by somebody else. So I collect them all into a PDF ebook, and then you can just convert that into a Kindle ebook, is the kind they sell on Amazon. Then you can record it yourself, or you can get a voiceover artist or anybody to read it into an audio like we're doing now. And now you've got an audio book. Or you can have it on video if it's something you need to show, like you're talking about plumbers, and, you know, I'm talking about landscapers, but they could video what they're going to do. And they have a link from their book to the video. So you can do this. There's no question about it. I don't care who you are. There's either you or I, Greg, could sit down with somebody and pull this out of their head, information that they have that somebody else would buy. And a typical thing, Greg, is people don't quite value the information that they do have. You know, if you've been any kind of work your entire life, you have expertise, and somebody just starting in that field would pay for it and kill for it. And a lot of people say, well, they can get it for free online. Well, what I say, Greg, is everything I ever said in my entire life is for free somewhere on the internet. You pay me to put it in one place for you, right? So it's the same thing. People will pay you $20, $50. If it's a money-making thing, like how to be a landscaper, how to be a plumber, you can get $50, $100, $150. You can start membership sites where they pay you $50, $100 a month. There's all kinds of ways. You can personally coach people. So yeah, there's all kinds of ways to turn that local idea into a worldwide profit generator for you.
Yeah, you know, there's a couple things that you said there that I find really interesting. One is you were talking about the stories, and people love stories more than they do just hearing things, you know, technical stuff.
Right.
If you can take your client stories, and maybe what you do is exactly what you said, is you record this perhaps in an interview type situation, even where you are just sitting there talking with your customer and telling them the kinds of things that you would tell them as if you were doing an initial consult with them. And you're right, that's great technical knowledge that you're sharing with somebody at that point that is easily converted into an ebook or a video or whatever it is that you want to do. So I think that's great.
And there's even more ways. I mean, so I'm sure you're familiar with, but your listeners may not be familiar with discussion boards or forums. This is where people discuss particular topics. And I'll tell you how I got into this. I was sitting in first class coming from LA after a speaking engagement, and I'm next to this guy, looked to be in about his 40s, but in the seat pocket in front of him, he had all these go-kart magazines. I think you're awful old for go-karts, you know. And I said, hey, what's up with the go-kart stuff? And he like lit up. He says, oh man, me and my kids, I got 3 boys. We race them on the weekends. And I said, well, how much does one of them cost? He says, oh, you can't get a piece of junk for 10 grand. I'm like, 10 grand for a go-kart? Are you kidding me? So my mind is starting to twirl. All right, 3 boys and himself, that's 4 go-karts. And he said that his cost $30,000 a piece. Wow. So there's $120,000 plus engines if they race them, and extra tires, and a big trailer to haul them, and a monster truck to pull it. He's got a couple $100 grand tied up in go-karts. So I was thinking, okay, if I wanted to write a book on how to purchase your first racing go-kart, I would go to a racing go-kart forum where guys like him hang out, and all they do is talk about go-karts all day. And I would look for the people that have been there the longest, and I'd approach them and say, hey, I'm writing a book on how to buy your first racing go-kart. Can I interview you? Well, how many of them you think will turn you down? I mean, that's all they do all day long is talk about go-karts. So yes, they're going to interview you. How much are they going to charge you for the interview? Nothing. Who's going to be so excited they're in a book, they're going to help you promote it? Them. big thing, Greg, who gets all the money? You. All right, so you're a publisher, but you don't have to pay your where you got the info, see, and you collect all the interviews, give it to an editor, they write it up into a book, bam, wham, you got a $27 ebook to maybe 47 if it's got more technical stuff in it too. So yes, you can do this.
Yeah, that is so huge what you just said. I'm sitting there thinking, even like with this podcast, one of the things that is a project that I've got forthcoming is to take snippets from the interviews that I've done and compile them into an ebook.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've got a tangible product that has not just knowledge that I've acquired over the years, but knowledge that all of these people that I've talked to have acquired over the years. And it's a great way to do it. And as you said, now when I let people know that, hey, you're in my book, you're right. They're going to be promoting it for
Mm-hmm.
you, which
Yeah.
is when I was kind of getting to this point about how do they do it. Well, it's not just a question of how do they actually make the book, but how, you've got to sell an awful lot of $27 books in order to really make a living. But what you were saying there, getting other people to promote it for you is huge in getting to that point.
Well, yeah, but I don't tell people off the bat, I don't overhype things, but I do tell them to just think about this. If you sold 10 of those a week, most just regular people, right? That's $270 a week. Let's say $300 a week times 4 weeks is $1,200 a month. It could be your house payment, it could be, so you start there and then you build on it. See, you can spin off to other books on where, here's the resource guide for go-kart parts, and, massive place to find go-kart parts, and just spin off into other things or go to a different topic. So I don't tell them you're going to be a millionaire overnight, but these things all add up. And when it gets to the point where I like to tell people, I want you to do so well at this that it becomes too expensive for you to go to work anymore. And that's the time when they can transition out of work and keep doing their books and their online courses and their consulting and coaching all from home. Screw the commute.
And the other thing that actually happens is that once you have that book, then people kind of look at you as being the expert. So even if you are in the situation of, hey, I really like the kind of work that I do. I enjoy being a plumber. I enjoy being a landscaper or whatever. I don't want to just be creating information products. That's fine. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you've now got this book and you could walk up to a potential client and you say, guess what? I wrote the book on this thing. Then all of a sudden you're the expert and they're more likely to become your client.
Yeah,
doing the kind of work that you like.
And even bigger than that, like landscapers, they suffer through the winter a lot of time unless they have, shoveling snow in part of the country. So their income goes down in certain parts of the country. I mean, if it's California or Florida, yeah, they can work year round, but up here, up north, they can't. So they can get income coming in from around the world, or at least any place that can speak their language on those topics. So it smooths out your cash flow. You can depend on work, and like I said, it's 97% profit. That's a lot different than repairing a $4,000 mower. When it goes bad.
Yeah, and it's not just seasonal things because of landscapers. I think that most people in business tend to have seasonality. Certainly here in Colorado, we've got a lot of tourist towns.
Mm-hmm.
They do really well in the summer, and some of them even shut down in the winter.
Wow.
Other ones are, at a ski area, and they do well during the ski season.
Exactly, right.
Do well during the summer. Most retail businesses do all of their business right around Christmas time. So what do they do during the rest of the year? They're struggling, it seems like, to get.
Yeah, and even something like an ice cream shop. It's a local business that you have to live very close to it to get money from people. But they could have an ebook on ice cream, how to make an ice cream cake. and sell that everywhere. We're in Virginia Beach area. I remember going past a sales shop. Well, the only thing they can do is service right here. Nobody from Florida is going to come up to a sales shop in Virginia Beach, but they could sell, okay, how to repair your sail when you don't, when you're out on the ocean, and, just information products like that can keep the money coming in, no matter what. And if anything does happen like this pandemic, you still can have money coming in. So it's there's no downside to it.
Yeah, I think, and clearly that's why we were talking here today, is people are kind of stuck at home because of this pandemic. And this is, as you said, it's not overnight. It's something that you have to build up to, and, start with the first product and get it out there. So you got slapped by the pandemic, and maybe in the past you've gotten slapped by other things, economic downturns and stuff. Now's a really good time to get started, because it's going to happen again.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And it's even bigger than those outside influences. What if you get sick? What if you get injured? What if you're just tired or you want to go on vacation? Money can keep coming in from these we call it intellectual property. It's something, and it's passed on to your kids too. If it's an evergreen product, like the internet stuff, it changes too fast. But you're doing something on landscaping or growing plants or, making ice cream cakes, you can pass that as an asset on to your children, so it's just really, I was told in 1991 by a lady, she was the grandmother of professional speaking. Her name was Dottie Walters. And she said, Tom, you must become a product machine. And I didn't understand it at the moment, but now I got 400 products. It didn't start that way. It was one at a time, and they kept building on each other. And I've got 18, 19 books to my credit. Not all of them made a lot of money, but a couple of them made enormous amounts of money. I have one, here's another kind of topic for your listeners. I have one free ebook that I wrote in 4 hours at a layover in McCarran Airport in Las Vegas. It's brought in, to date, $3.6 million, and anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000 a month. Well, you say, that sounds like BS, Tom. How could that be? It's free. Well, here's the method. You create a series of videos or an ebook that teaches somebody how to do something, but they can't do it unless they have the tool that you talk about in the book to do it. So for them to be able to do what you're telling about, they got to go buy the tool. So the tool pays me $600 a year for each person that wants to do what I'm teaching in the ebook. And so that's been going on for years and years and years. It comes out to about $243,000 a year just on that one ebook. So that eclipses all the other ones, and the other ones did well, but not like that. But you never find the ones that do great unless you keep doing them, and then some will emerge big, some will go small, but it all adds up.
Yeah, we've got a colleague that actually told me one time that free ebooks were great for exactly what you were saying. He was like, or even paid books, if somebody rips you off and starts distributing it, what you do is you embed a bunch of affiliate links
exactly
through the book, and people are buying stuff because of what you're telling them in the book, and you're making money anyway. People
ask me all the time, well, can't somebody steal my PDF ebook? And I say, listen, if they steal your ebook, at least they heard of you. You want them to take it because you should embed all kinds of stuff that you sell and that other people sell, and let them give it away. But they still might buy it in the first place, some of them. So it's you win coming or going.
Yeah, great information there.
Mm-hmm.
So as we get towards the end here, is there kind of any other thoughts that you want to leave people with in terms of, hey, I've been laid off my job and this pandemic really sucks. What is it that I can do to really get this whole intellectual property thing going for me?
Well, they should pick a topic, and number one thing in my all teaching internet is keyword research. They need to learn to do keyword research to make sure somebody actually wants what their idea is. But almost everybody has some kind of expertise that somebody else would pay for. I mean, you could sit down at Amazon and just type in whatever you do, and there's probably a load of books out there. And don't feel bad about that, because if there wasn't any books on it, either you hit the lottery, you'll be the only one, but the most likely nobody could make any money on it, so that's why there's no books on it. So if there's a lot of
point,
yeah, if there's a lot of other books on it, that means there's a market for it. And I have you can't see it here, but over there, I was telling you about Fatso Tennis. I have this this crazy tennis site because it makes my hobbies tax deductible. So I've made a tennis DVD. So, but I have a table over there that's 6 feet wide, a banquet table, and 3 feet high with tennis training stuff. Well, anybody that's fanatic about a topic buys whatever there is on that topic. So if you, Greg, decide to make a tennis video, I'll buy it, because I buy everything on tennis videos.
All right.
I'm not sure how likely that is, but I'll buy it. I'll be your first customer.
You guys heard that here.
Yeah. So the point is, if there's products out there, you can find an interesting angle and just throw your 2 cents worth in. And it doesn't even have to be much of an angle. On that table, there's probably 6 different videos on how to serve. And 90% of them are the same. It's just I'm looking for that one little tip that I might be able to beat the other guy with, So if you just jump in on something that you enjoy and there's a big market for, you'll get your fair share of the business. I call it my pizza shop theory. There's a big demand for pizza in the world. If you do a good job making pizza, you'll get your fair share of the business. So you can do this. That's the bottom line, and this is the perfect time to start.
Yeah. Great information here. Final thoughts or anything that you want to leave our listeners with? I know you told me offline here about a freebie that you wanted to offer people.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things you want to do, I know it drives people crazy a lot to be in front of the computer too much. So I wrote a book on how, I got to 150,000 subscribers and 40,000 customers with just me and one part-time temp person, and she didn't interact with the customers. She was just doing paperwork. And in fact, the only time I started hiring people was when the accountant called me and said, "Tom, you got too much retained earnings." And I'm like, "What?" He says, "Yeah, you got too much money in the bank." Well, I've been keeping my nose clean. I'm not buying yachts and airplanes. He says, "Yeah, but you're going to have to pay more taxes." I'm like, "What? Are you kidding me?" So that's when I started. I said I'd rather hire employees than buy bombs with my taxes. So I started hiring people for that. But yeah, you can definitely do this. You just need to start collecting what's in your mind that you can do, or something you're interested in. You can be a research person and create a product. That's fine, as long as you don't claim to have 20 years experience. Go interview people, but do something, and you'll see that it's not that hard. Just get some training, do some keyword research, learn about that so that you know that there's a market. Look on Amazon, see if there's other products. That's great. See how much they're selling for. In fact, they do your work for you, because you can hit the look in function on any book, and it gives you the whole table of contents. So just write them all down, and then you'll have an outline for your book already. So the point is you can do this. I have been living it since the internet started. Greg's been living it for years and years and years. So you can do it, and we can't wait to see your first product come out.
Totally true. And like Tom, create your product, and I'll buy it too.
There you go. And so anyway, back to automation. So I was handling all these people with a bunch of techniques and cheap software. So I wrote an ebook that I'm going to give you. We sell it for $27. It's called How to Automate Your Business. And you can get it at screwthecommute.com, which is my podcast, screwthecommute.com/automate free. Screwthecommute.com/automate free. It saved me millions of keystrokes. It's got cell phone tips on how to automate stuff on your cell phone, and you take care of customers way faster, which means you steal business from your competitors, because I hear these voicemails, if you can even call anybody, it says, well, we'll get back to you within 48 hours. I can be dead in 48 hours. I'm talking about 48 hours. So grab a copy of that and really put some of it into play, and you'll spend a lot less time in front of the computer and be able to take care of a lot more people. And
for anybody listening to this podcast, I've got to tell you, when someone like Tom is offering a freebie like that, go take advantage of it. I know I'm going to, and I'm sure he follows his advice in there of having other things that you can get from reading his ebook just by clicking on the links. But that's part of the whole learning process, and definitely take Tom up on his offer here. So we'll put that in the show notes as well. Great information today, Tom. Great catching up with you again. Looking forward to being on your podcast. And
that's right.
Appreciate your time here today.
That's right. Screw that commute, man. All right. Thanks for having me on, man.
You bet. Take care.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of 20 Minutes of Influence. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you are interested in booking myself as a speaker at one of your events, or are interested in any of my coaching programs, please visit gregjamison.com.